Welcome to Creating Connections Podcast, episode 121. I am Mitch Taylor.
And I'm Vicki Musney.
And today we get to speak with an expert who is all about making it happen every single day. We're excited to welcome to the program a woman who has been featured in the 40 Under 40 for Entrepreneur Magazine. She's also been interviewed by Good Morning America and The Today Show.
And now Creating Connections.
Yes, and the author of two best-selling books. Please welcome to the show, Michelle McCullough.
That was nice and easy.
What are you talking about? This also speaks to a much bigger issue.
Providing personal solutions through understanding people. This is the Creating Connections Podcast with Gitomer Certified Advisor Mitch Taylor and Certified Personality Trainer Vicki Musney.
Michelle, you've had such an interesting life, but we'd love to hear your story. How did you get to where you are today?
I was intrigued by the whole start of my first business at 19, I'll be honest. So make sure you hit that.
Well, my background is in marketing and advertising. And when I went to college, I was studying marketing and advertising, and I went and got a job at an advertising agency in the town where I went to school. And it was a really great experience. It was a small firm, so I got a lot of great hands-on experience with clients and print production and radio production and everything. But we had a client who needed some promotional items. And while this was not that long ago, almost 20 years, the internet was not like it is today. And so we had to search and search and search. And so I finally found this guy in the Midwest and said, hey, can you give me some quotes on some imprinted items? And he said, you know what, I'd be happy to do that, but I can show you how to do it. And for only $50, you can set this up as a business and you could make all the commissions, which was super generous of him at the time. And so that's how my first business, Doodads Promotional Products, was born. It was born out of necessity, and I call myself kind of the accidental entrepreneur because I thought I would just do it a few times. And then I ended up really loving it. And so it was always a business that I've run on the side. And while I worked corporate, and even now that I have my own companies, it's a business that kind of sits there in the back burner and supports my marketing consulting, and I continue to support clients with it. And it's just a little thing that got me started in entrepreneurship, and I learned a lot of things and made a lot of mistakes, and that's helped me grow my other businesses.
That's really cool. So you're still doing that one. So if we want to get promotional products, we can order them directly from you.
Sure.
I love it.
Yes, we can imprint on over 850,000 items, as we say.
Wow.
But
now, does that include apparel or only
we do apparel as well.
Oh, good to know.
But it's side note. It's not my front burner business. I have people who can run that for me. But yeah, it still runs in the black every year, and I love it. It's great.
Cool.
That's cool. No, and we're all about creating connections, so that's a fun one to know, because that's not at all how the three of us connected or anything to do with the other stuff. So that's just a fun little side one.
Well, and now that I speak and do consulting a lot, I don't lead with it. And so a lot of people don't know about it, but it's definitely been a part of my journey.
Awesome.
Well, and I think that's cool, though, because as someone who also owns three businesses that on the surface don't appear to be related at all, it's just refreshing to hear someone else that kind of shares that situation. And because you have to decide when you meet somebody what you're going to lead with, because that's what they're going to remember most about who you are and what you do and the association. So I resonate with that.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So we have the Doodad business on the back burner. And then what propelled you to where you are today, speaking on Good Morning America and the Today Show and everything else?
Well, that's an interesting story about how all of that happened. But
we like stories.
Oh, good. Well, I was a debater in high school, and that's actually how I paid for college, because I got a full ride scholarship plus stipend money for debating in college. And I remember complaining to a friend once and saying, it's not fair. There's not a professional speaking team or a professional debate team. Like, some of my friends were going on to the NBA. One was shooting out for the NFL. And I was like, what is the professional version for like debate? And they were like, well, you could be an attorney. And I was like, oh no, I hate school. So I do not want to go to any more school. And then somebody said, well, you could be a motivational speaker. And I was like, oh, maybe someday. And I was already kind of down the marketing path, and there really wasn't a degree for public speaking. And I had taken a bunch of communications classes and public relations. And so that's kind of how that ball started rolling. And you asked about the Today Show and Good Morning America, and that also happened somewhat by accident. But my father passed away in 2003 of SARS. And so at the beginning of this journey, he was in China at the time, but he was the first American on record to pass away. And we kind of became somewhat of a media spectacle, and I did all of the local news channels within about 24 hours. And then after that, all of the national channels picked it up. And it's interesting because that came by accident, but I learned some things in the process that have totally changed the way that I run my business and the way that I use media. And those experiences back then have really helped propel my business. And so now I have regular segments on the Fox affiliate network, a regular segment on the ABC and the NBC affiliate network. I've been on the other networks here in Salt Lake City, and media has just been a really big part of my business, something that happened by accident, but really ended up helping me in a way that I didn't expect, something that I thought was a tragedy, but actually ended up being a huge blessing. So everything happens for weird, interesting reasons. And then at the end of your life, you look back and you go, oh, I can see how that makes sense. But in the moment, it doesn't necessarily make all the sense in the world, but totally helps. And I'm just grateful that my path has led me to where I am. And I love speaking, and I love that someday became today one day. And still being able to do all the things that I love. And that's the American dream, right?
Absolutely.
For sure, for sure. Well, and from now I started reading your book. Can we switch gears here and talk about the book for a little bit? The most recent one. This is not the only one, but this is the one that just came out. What, couple months ago? March.
Yes,
March it released. Okay. Yes. And so I ordered a copy for me. I sent one to Mitch actually, and he's got it, bumped it to the top of his to read list.
Yes.
But I will confess, I've only read about 5 chapters, because this is not the kind of book that you're supposed to just like sit and read through in one sitting and go, oh, that was nice, and then tuck it back on your shelf. Like, this is a book about making it happen. And so I've got the workbook too. I've got it all printed off of the website and on my desk. And so I'm trying to go back and work through some of the homework that you gave us. But can you, because we do like stories and we love hearing about how things are connected, can you share with our viewers and our listeners the story of how Make It Happen came to be? Because we talk a lot about mentoring on our show and the mentors in our life. And I just think that's a really cool story of connection and inspiration.
Absolutely. I moved to a new place. We stayed in the same town, but when I was 14 years old, my mom uprooted us from a place we had lived for 8 years. We knew all of our friends, and we could drive and we could walk everywhere we needed to. And we moved to a new place, and it was great for her. She bought her first home, but I remember feeling, even though we were only moving a few miles away, it totally changed my world and my friends. And I remember being sad, but in that place, one of my youth group leaders was a woman named Elaine Millett, and she was a fantastic woman who I love and I run into from time to time still, and she holds a soft place in my heart. But she had 9 kids of her own, but always seemed to reach out and take care of me, and it was so great. And I didn't appreciate it as much then as I do now as an adult, looking back and appreciating the sacrifices that she made.
Always the case.
Isn't that so? But she would come up to me and she would find me and she would say, Michelle, how are you doing? And for years and years and years, she would just, even when it wasn't her responsibility anymore and she wasn't the youth group leader, she would ask me about my plays and my debate tournaments and my entrepreneurial get rich quick schemes as a kid. And she always cheered me on. And sometimes I would say, oh, I don't know if I could do it, or I'm a little nervous about this. And she said, Michelle, make it happen. And that was her through line, was make it happen. And she taught me at that really great age of 14 that there were going to be lots of times and experiences where we were scared, or I was nervous, or something wasn't going to work. But really, I had in control almost everything I needed to make what I wanted to have in my life happen, and every goal and dream. And that became a through line in our home. And my mom would say at any time I ever showed even the tiniest ounce of doubt, and it just became something that mattered in our house. And I can think of so many experiences as a teenager and in college where those 3 words came into my mind and changed the way that I mentally handled a circumstance or a goal or a dream. And I've always been success-minded. I had my first Franklin Day Planner when I was 12 years old. I was making mission statements and goals. I mean, I was a total kid geek when it came to success principles, but it's make it happen while is a great mantra has become so much more than that to me. It's the name of my radio show and podcast. It's the name of my book. It's the name of my coaching programs and other things. But it's become something even bigger than me and bigger than Elaine Millett, and reminds me every day that I have every gift, talent, and ability that I need to fulfill my dreams. And I remember a friend saying that those exact same words, Michelle, you have every gift, talent, ability that you need to fulfill your dreams. And it reminded me of Elaine saying, just make it happen. And so it's just a really big part of my life now. And now the Make It Happen blueprint is that it's not just about saying it, it's about doing it. And so the book came to be as a result of the experiences that I've had, but then also the principles and practices that I put in place every single day that go above and beyond just saying the words, but actually putting them into motion and really making your dreams come true.
Well, and I'll confess that's something I really struggle with, because especially having so many friends who are authors and speakers, and I'm always wanting to support and buy their new book and read this, and I'm an education junkie, and speaking at a conference, I'm always attending all of the other seminars and workshops and learning, and I don't always put it into practice. And that's why, as much as I was taking your book to the gym and reading while I was on the exercise bike. And I said, you know what, I have to stop. I have to go home and print out the workbook, because I was seeing the references and I'm like, oh, I'll get to that later. And I'm like, no, if I really want to make it happen, I can't just think about making it happen. And I think that message and that need to put it into action really hit me. And that's part of why I wanted to have you on the show, is because our audience are mostly business owners and entrepreneurs, all people that work in the events industry. And every day we need to be reminded to make it happen, whether it's reaching our business goals or making something happen for a client at a specific event, creating a moment for them that is so important, or whatever our role is in that day, that event, that experience that we want them to have. That whole mindset, I love it. I loved you from the moment I heard you step on stage in Salt Lake City in January. We were at this event together. The 3 of us were there with Rob Foray, who's also been a guest on our show before, and a good friend of ours. And I remember sitting in the audience nudging Mitch going, I want to be friends with her. I really like her. And then when I met you in the ladies' room, I came out and I looked at Mitch. I'm like, Michelle and I are totally friends now. Like we talked, we bonded in front of the mirror when we were washing our hands.
Absolutely.
Girls do that. We totally connect that way. Girls can do that.
That's funny.
And that's how great things happen, right? You meet people in good places.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Fun. Well, let's talk about, you mentioned some of the lessons that you learned when you were doing the interviews before. Are they transferable lessons? Like, can you pick one that you want to share with our listeners, or maybe just even a favorite interview moment? I know some of the circumstances initially weren't positive, but there were good things that came out of it that you alluded to.
Well, I was grateful that I had taken marketing and media classes and even some journalism classes before that happened. But one of the things that I didn't know that I was doing, but that one person commented on in the local interviews, and it changed the way I moved forward, was speaking in sound bites. And especially for TV and radio, well, this is long-term format, but if you're doing an interview that ends up only being 3 to 5 minutes, you can't tell long stories. You have to figure out how to share and answer the questions that they give you in short, succinct answers. And I remember somebody saying that to me, like, you do really great speaking in sound bites. And I went, okay, mental note, how do I make that transfer? And I truly believe that one of the it's interesting because everybody mourns and works through things in different ways. And in hindsight, looking at that experience, it was a really great way for me to honor my father and honor that experience and talk about him. And I was able to share principles and success ideas. They were like, how are you getting through this and what's happening? And things that he had instilled in me, and things that, I talk about him a lot in my book, and some experiences that we had together that were really powerful. And so knowing all of those things, it was just kind of a culmination of everything that I had been taught and learned, both professionally, both personally. And it was a great experience. And what I'm grateful for is not being afraid of that, and not being afraid of the opportunity to be interviewed and to have a microphone, where some people might shy away and that's not their nature. I was able to share a message that helped me get through a hard time, and hopefully will help other people get through their hard times by figuring out how to make it work right for them and for us, and the best way to honor my father.
That's really cool. Well, and honestly, I feel like even outside of an interview context, being able to say what you want to say in a clear and succinct manner is a really good communication skill in a lot of settings, because there are so many situations where not everybody either has the personality or the patience or the time to hear the long version. Yeah. So to be able to get to the point quickly is a really valuable skill in lots of situations.
Well, today's world society of speaking in 140 characters, you have
for real.
Get your point across as quickly as possible and succinctly as possible. So that's even more so important. Yeah. Awesome.
Yes.
So Michelle, if people want to connect with you, find out more about you, buy your book, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Well, everything that you need is in my hub online at speakmichelle.com. And I love connecting with people through social media as well, but I am on every channel at social media at Speak Michelle. So wherever your favorite place is to play, I would love to connect up, and also welcome any comments or thoughts via our website as well.
Awesome. Go out, get her book, make it happen for yourself. That's the goal. And she provides you the blueprint to do it, but you still have to put in the work.
Yes.
And that's what she'll help you do.
You can print the workbook. Downloads from the website. It's so brilliant and so helpful.
Post in our group, Sales for Event Pros as well, if you're following along on the Make It Happen Blueprint journey. We'd love to be able to share your successes with Michelle as well. So thank you for watching Creating Connections podcast. Greatly appreciate your viewership. I'm Mitch Taylor.
And I'm Vicki Musney. And that was Michelle McCullough. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle, for being here. Creating Connections, providing personal solutions through understanding people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Creating Connections podcast with Gittimer Certified Advisor Mitch Taylor and Certified Personality Trainer Vicki Musney. For more information on providing personal solutions through understanding people better, visit creatingconnections.biz.